Empowering quick decisions to save money and make time. That forms the spine of what Nitin Aggarwal has been doing for the last 3.5 years in business. Welcome to the session, Nitin. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Amit. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I've had the benefit of speaking to Nitin for the last 15 minutes, and he's got so many good gems of knowledge that he's accumulated over the last 3.5 years. No doubt this is going to be a good use of your 15 minutes. So let's get started very quickly, Nitin. So tell us a bit more about yourself and the kind of services you're providing in your business at the moment.
Sure, absolutely. Very happy to share. So I'm Nitin Aggarwal. I'm the founder and CEO of Property Deals Insights. So our platform has access to over 30 million UK homes, which allows us to help you find and analyze any property in seconds. So that's what we do. I personally come from a tech and a corporate background where I've been doing that for 2 decades now. And I've always been a property investor, just been 15 for the last 10, 15 years. And yeah, I mean, I think I started our journey about 3.5 years, as you said. And we were looking at, basically, I come from a background where I've led some of the largest solutions in the entire world. And very recently, I was involved in leading what the future of the entire UK's payment industry would be. So it kind of felt, it always occurred to me that the property market is so slow. And as a property investor, I was always struggling to find deals, analyze deals, and I wanted something as a back pocket utility. This is how we started.
Sounds amazing. Now, you mentioned something really important there that you've been working on some of the most industry leading, large industry leading projects. And then you decided to start your own business. So, having that security of having a secure job to starting your own business, talk to us through why you made the jump to starting this pretty innovative business.
I think that is a question I get asked quite a lot, and I think a lot of other entrepreneurs out there who are thinking, and everybody is full of ideas. It's always hard making the actual decision and taking the plunge, as they call it. So that's always the tricky one. It's something which I was always thinking about, but I was never sure whether I wanted to do it alone. My plan was I would have a couple of co-founders with me, but it's one of those things when it just hits you and then you think you've got it all planned out, you just have to start it, right? So that's how
Mm.
I started. The good thing about my profile was I was always one of those who could actually juggle things around and actually can work on multiple projects and programs. And that's one of the reasons why I was leading some of those large programs, as I mentioned. Basically, that's when I started, okay, fine, I needed to do it initially for myself. It started helping me. Then I actually shared it with some of my mates, a few hundred or close to 1,000 property investors, and they absolutely loved it. That's when I realized this is something really big and it could be quite helpful for others. So initially we did like a soft launch while I was still working in my day job, and I think that's kind of where it started. I could see that it has big potential, and some of the companies in this space, they are going to become really, really big. So I think it was worth taking that plunge.
Mhm. That's really interesting what you mentioned over there, that you're really good at juggling large projects, and that's what you're doing in industry. Now, a bit of insight into the world of SMEs. There are plenty of business owners who are wearing multiple hats. They're wearing the hat of the marketer, they're wearing the hat of the admin staff, they're wearing the hat of the finance director. And often juggling becomes a huge challenge for most business owners. So, Nathan, would you be happy to share what kind of juggling acts or tips? What kind of tips would you share with that business owners that's juggling so much? How can they become better at juggling from your perspective and your experience?
I think that's actually a very, very important point. And I guess also going back to my point earlier about I was originally planning to be going out with a couple of co-founders, so that I think to make life simple, typically the industry mantra is you need a one tech guy, you need one business guy, one finance guy. So that's generally how people go over there. My specialization. I've always been that. I've always been able to adapt very quickly. And even within my corporate role, I've always been the guy who's the most techie guy when they're speaking to the tech team. And is very, I can think strategically when I'm talking to the senior C-level stakeholders. So I could actually wear multiple hats depending on who I'm chatting to, who I'm speaking to. This
Mhm.
is not always everybody's cup of tea, and it's not always something which you can actually juggle around with. But I think some of those things, as an entrepreneur, you have to, if you're jumping, especially if coming from a large corporate sort of background, you go into your entrepreneurial journey, you'd actually find you end up having to wear more than 3, 4, 5 hats, actually.
Yeah.
I'd say almost 10, 20 hats. So you basically have to be really rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty. So anybody
Mm.
who's actually thinking they want to be moving ahead with their own business idea, I would say absolutely go ahead. But you have to be prepared for the hard graft. You have to be prepared to get your hands dirty. And I think that's kind of how it's been for us.
It's kind of mentally preparing yourself to think, "Do you know what? You're going to get my hands dirty. There's going to be plenty of things for me to do. So just bring it." But once you go in there with that mental preparation, you kind of seem to roll with the punches over there. So that's a great takeaway for the people listening. Next question I'll ask you, and again, something you mentioned was you tested out the prototype with your friends and people you serve with influence before going big. How many people skip that stage? I mean, how can you shed a light on how important testing is before you go live on these kind of new inventions?
I think I would say that's absolutely critical, to be honest. I mean, as we call it in the industry, you want to be making sure you've actually got your MVP sorted.
Mm.
And I think sometimes people get muddled up with the whole thing of getting a perfect product out there. And even we come across founders or early stage entrepreneurs, they're too like secretive about their ideas. They think that is the next big thing, and then if they tell somebody that, somebody can steal it. I think it's all about the execution. And actually what you don't want to do is think, because you can come up with any idea, and that possibly I can safely say applies to any business or whatever your business model is. When you think of certain things, and by the time you actually roll it out, the customers, your target customers, are going to tell what path you should choose. You should almost kind of let them drive what they really want. So it's, rather than trying to spend forever coming up with an exquisite, perfect product, it's better to actually get out quickly with the core proposition, which is what you want the market to test. That allows you to get to fix things and iteratively actually improve, and ultimately give your audience what they really want. And equally,
Mm.
if your idea is a pipe dream, you'd find out very early without having to gone down or draining a lot of money or hours into something.
Yeah, really useful approach. Rather than aiming for progress rather than perfection is what I'm reading in between the line. Get the product out there, get the MVP out there, and let the customers drive, as you say, how your product looks like, because ultimately they're going to be using it. So, um, clearly you've created a product which is now used, as you mentioned earlier to me before the interview, is being used by some huge players in the industry. It's being used many times. You've got 30 million properties on your kind of software or right now. Your customer journey. How did you go about interacting with customers to tweak and change your platform to help it be suited to their needs? 'Cause a lot of business owners struggle with understanding their market. What steps did you take to really understand your market and your consumers?
Sure. I think I had the luxury of coming from the background where, as I mentioned earlier, I've led some of the largest initiatives in the world. So I've always been somebody who kind of almost thinks almost 5, 10 years ahead in terms of what should happen in the future. And that doesn't necessarily mean everybody's ready there and then. But you kind of almost have to have a long-term plan and a short-term plan sort of thing. So for us, it was all about bringing together the data and making it available to our customers. Initially, we targeted the smaller players, and then allows you to work closely with them. So that allowed us to have a customer relationships and integrations, or sorry, interactions with our customers, which basically got them involved, so they feel valued, and that allowed us to shape it for smaller players initially, and they almost act as your beta testers. So rather, I mean, when you're working with 30 million properties, it's your testing effort, if you can think of, is forever. So you can never basically say I've validated everything, which is where we brought all these customers in. So they basically were able to use the platform and almost validate and test it for you. And that when you're dealing with smaller like individuals or customers, that allows you chances of making mistakes and actually getting it right, rather than jumping straight to a corporate customers, which eventually we then moved to after a year or so. For us, initially was B2C, then we moved towards the B2B market. But when you go there, you don't have much leeway for errors. So you want to make sure the product is perfect. Otherwise, you've already blown your chance to that special client which you're looking for. So yeah, I think that's kind of how we went about it. I always had my big picture vision in there, where I wanted to go. But I think sometimes you have to keep it to yourself. You don't want your customers getting confused about what you're really trying to achieve at the end of the day, because for them, as long as your product does what they need, that's what they really care about.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's ultimately their journey that you're facilitating, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned another great word over there, the word mistakes. A word which many entrepreneurs or people can be afraid of. But also, it can be one of the biggest gifts, a mistake. And I know it sounds really cliche. But Nitin, would you be happy to share some entrepreneurial mistakes that you've made, what you learned from it, and what advice would you give to the viewers or listeners to this session?
I think mistakes are bound to happen. I mean, I think that's what makes us human, right? So we did the same. I mean, obviously, it's very easy for me to sit here and say, "Oh, we should do this and that," but I mean, through the journey, I had a certain plan, but there was so many things which you kind of almost discover on route, and actually almost understand and have to adapt. There are changes in which can happen in the market. New players come in. The more established players can suddenly launch some products or make certain things free because they're looking at competition, and those kind of things actually can derail you sometimes. So for us, I mean, we've tried to kind of come up with propositions which can help a certain different like customer types. For us, it was property investors, property sources, etc., etc. And there was a time when we started switching our offering into a direction which possibly didn't give us the rewards which we thought it would. So yeah, I mean, I think in that way, I was actually guilty of not actually focusing on looking at the target market, what sort of adoption we can really get from the market. We just assume that everybody who's been using a certain part of a platform would also want the second phase. So we did end up losing about 6 to 8 months of a time, which is quite a lot of time actually, if you think about it, in how fast moving the industry is. But I think, yeah, I mean, these things happen. But I think what you got to keep in mind is you can never be perfect. The quicker you can pivot from any mistakes you make, the better you will be placed. So that's that thing. I think there's one other thing actually, which I would like to say. As a platform, we're trying to do well, we want to make the life easy across the industry. So basically, we want a one-click property purchase a reality. However, we can't do it alone. So it has to be bringing together other systems, other players in the market. It's all about integrating. So we at sometimes have tried to actually do too much on our own, but I think now we are more open to integrations, more open to partnerships, and that's helped us quite well recently.
Interesting. Partnerships, again, a huge word when it comes to building your business. So, Nitin, a bit of air time for you, a bit of broadcasting time for you. For the listeners out there, well, also for me to know, what kind of partnerships or what kind of introductions are you looking for or happy to have a conversation with, help make you grow your business, but also for you to help supplement somebody else's business?
Sure, absolutely. So at the core, we have an online platform which helps investors and estate agents, so they can come in and use our platform, which helps them get more customers. But we are sitting on a large amount of data. So more and more businesses, and data is king and everybody needs it. So now more and more businesses who are looking to actually come to terms with how the world's changing, we are open to having chat with those customers or corporates who are actually in the need of accurate property data across the country to help power their solutions. So we have API offerings which are actually helping other prop tech customers or other customers, and some of the large corporates are also using our data. So we'd be very happy to have conversations. If somebody has a proposition in mind, we can help them. Then we'll be more than happy to have that conversation. And the other thing is actually we are now backed by Second Century Ventures, which is one of the largest scale-up program for businesses in the property technology space. But we are growing quite rapidly, and with all the increasing inquiries which we're getting, we are also looking at some funding for the business to take it to the next level. So anybody who's a serious investor, angel investor, or family office, etc., they can have come and have a chat with us, and we'll be more than happy to speak to them.
Amazing, amazing. Running out of time, I've got two questions to ask you, if I may squeeze them in very quickly. Number one, future, 5 years ahead. You said you're a big picture thinker, you look forward into the future. What would you say is the future for your business right now?
I think it looks quite promising, as I just said. It's for us 5 years. 5 years is a lot of time. I never like to do that, but I think what we want to be doing is we want to be the #1 data authority across the country. So where if you want anything to do with the property and data and analysis, everybody should be coming to Property Deals Insight for that. So that's where we want to be. We are we're heading there quite a lot. So I think we are all on the right track for that.
Smashing stuff. And secondly, challenges. I mean, in order for you to get to your ultimate vision, without you're going to face some challenges. So for your business particularly, without looking at the external economy and external factors, what would you say are the challenges that you're likely to face as you grow and scale your empire?
I think our biggest challenge is failing to realize our own potential, really. So that's what I would say. And that number of people who kind of come and work with us, even partners, etc., they say, "Oh, we never knew something as good as this existed." And I think we need to change that. We need to be out there. Everybody should know about us and benefit from what is a truly exceptional platform, not just because it's our platform, but that's really how our customers feel. And I think that's what we are looking to open up. But for us, it's all about making sure we realize the potential of our own platform. Really, that's what I would say.
Realizing the potential of your own platform and getting the name out there of what you're providing, because there's plenty of people that could benefit from what you supply.
Absolutely.
Nitin, it's been an absolute pleasure being talking to you. I've made literally 1.5 pages of notes over here for things you need to take away, learn, and digest. You've been an absolute pleasure to speak to. Nothing but wishing you an amazing future and hope to keep in touch and hear how you get along. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Amit, and thanks for everybody to listen. Thank you. Cheers.
Sure.